Hi, hello, and welcome to a webinar from Agile Velocity. My name is Jessica Thomason. I am a marketing assistant here at AV. Today, I am joined by AV's SVP of Client Success, Erik Cottrell, and a very special guest, the COO of Texas Mutual Insurance Company, Jeanette Ward. And today, we're here to discuss our topic, leading change at Texas Mutual.
Thank you, Jessica. My name is Erik Cottrell. I'm the SVP in charge of Client Success and Marketing, and I have a great job. I get to work with our clients, helping them ensure success along the way. So this is an older picture of me before I had more gray hair on my face. In addition to my roles overseeing client success, I'm also responsible for our marketing. And we are in our newly updated space, and we're thinking we may name this particular webinar Beside One Fern, for those of you who know. We are very fortunate to be able to work with clients all over the country to help them with their Agile transformations. And Texas Mutual is one of our clients in our own backyard here in Austin. And it's been a real pleasure to be a part of their transformation. And so we've had a number of training sessions out there, and we've had coaches on site for just about a year. And we wanted to introduce ourselves a little bit if you're not familiar with Agile Velocity. We are a coaching and training firm that provides an overall approach to transformations that we think is pretty special. But it's really fun when we get to hear what's going on from a client's point of view. And so Jeanette is going to provide that for us today. And we won't go too long, but Jeanette is a rare leader who wants results, who needs to be able to show progress. And wants to get the best kind of environment for her people and ultimately to serve her customers. And I think we're going to hear some interesting perspectives of how you've been able to shape that and also what Texas Mutual has learned through the process of becoming an Agile firm. So we're very excited to have Jeanette give us some perspective. So we're hoping this is a little bit different. We don't want this to be just a nuts and bolts kind of a talk about all of the process, but more kind of a behind the scenes. And so Jeanette has been involved from the very beginning. And for us, as a provider of services, it's just an amazing thing to be able to work with a C-level individual all the way down to the team level. And so the perspective that Jeanette will bring, I think, is going to be very exciting. Context for the transformation and how we're going to move through our questions and conversation today. There's really been three phases that we'll cover. One is what happened before we jumped in. So we've been going at it for about a year, and there were a lot of things that led up to that. And since we got engaged and they decided to go with an Agile solution, they've been in this current state of getting better, and we're heading into now a future state where we're starting to realize some things. So the way that we've come on scene is we kind of came in at phase 2 and phase 3 with our path to agility. And this is the way that we help our clients go through a change with confidence and acceleration. So the whole intention here is that we've created a path to agility to provide a way to use outcomes to describe what the end state is, and then how to basically work through the stages of the change at the leadership level, the cultural level, team level, and everything in between. And we'll cover that. So the path to agility is unique to Agile Velocity, and I think we'll talk a little bit about how it's made a difference. So without further ado, let's get into it. So Jeanette, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Erik.
Yeah, you bet. So would you mind tell us a little bit about Texas Mutual and you and your role?
Yeah, absolutely. So Texas Mutual we're a workers' comp insurance company. We were created by the state, but we're a private mutual company owned by our policyholders. We cover most of the Texas market. We have over 40%. We cover 70,000 Texas employers and their corresponding 1.5 million workers. So we take our job very seriously. We have a saying at Texas Mutual: we want every worker to get home safe every night. And we mean that not just for our policyholders, employees, but we really want every worker to get home safe. So you mentioned cell phone policy. We encourage all businesses to have a no cell phone policy when you're driving in the car. It's very important. I'm going to give that plug real fast. He was talking about being on his phone earlier. we also, when someone is hurt on the job, we're given the best medical care possible. We provide income replacement if they're not able to work. And then we want to get them back to work in a productive life as quickly as possible. So that's kind of who we are. And I always say, even though we are an insurance company, like pretty much every company out there, we're also a technology company. We have a lot of automation supporting us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have a particularly interesting story with Texas Mutual. Would you mind kind of giving us a little perspective?
Well, I started when I was 16. Not really. No, I'm kind of a rarity in that I've worked for the same company my whole career since I got out of college. So as of November, I celebrated 25 years at Texas Mutual. And I started at the very bottom. I was a receptionist in the executive office back when I started. It was going to be my temporary job till I found my real job. And I think that's how a lot of people get into insurance. It's a joke in the insurance industry. But it's been a really incredibly rewarding career. And really, I'm not the only one at the company who's worked there a long time. We have a lot of long tenured employees because it's a great place to work. So I was able to move around the organization. I ended up in financial services. At one point, I ran corporate accounting. I have no accounting degree, but I did okay. Our records were fine that year. And then I moved over to the claim side, specifically to help implement process and system changes associated with a big project we were doing. And since then, I've gotten more and more responsibility, and last May was promoted to Chief Operating Officer.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
So one of the things that you mentioned is that you're doing pretty well. Texas Mutual is pretty well established.
Yep.
You could say it's a market leader.
Yep.
Lots of winning.
Yes.
So obviously we're here to talk about agility and transforming from to. And so why in the world would you consider making that kind of a leap when you were already winning and doing well?
Right. We ask ourselves that sometimes too, but really that came as sort of a convergence of multiple things. Back in 2013, our CEO, Rich Gergasco, joined the company. He had a different approach. I would say, like most traditional insurance companies, we were probably more autocratic top-down prior. And he really came in with an empowerment leadership style, and he empowered us to be innovative and solve our problems in new ways. So that was an immediate change to the organization. At the same time, kind of like all of us, we're seeing rapid advances in technology. You can call it the Amazon effect, where we're getting what we need immediately. It's easy, a couple of clicks and you're done. We also see changing demographics. So even though not all business owners are millennials, they are quickly becoming millennials, or business decision makers are. And so we're recognizing that ultimately the people who were raised on technology, who are raised on digital, are going to come to expect it, and probably aren't going to want to get a piece of paper, open it up, write a check, take your scissors and clip the payment thing off, which we used to make people do, and mail the check in. That they're going to want to be able to do things online when they want to and get to a person when they want to. So we recognize that change. And then also around the same time, we saw this emergence of a lot of investment from venture capitalists in insurance technology. It became sort of the next big industry that is ripe for disruption. So it even has a term. It's called InsurTech. And so there's probably over 1,500 startup InsurTech companies focused on the insurance industry with a lot of capital behind them. So we're seeing all of these things. We have the empowerment, the innovative, the changing demographics, the changing technology, and then these potential threats coming in. And our competitors also investing in it. So while we are the market leader today, we kind of took a hard look at ourselves and knew we had to really adjust and be more responsive, nimble, agile, so to speak, if we're going to be relevant in the future. So that's really what drove our transformation.
You have done a lot of changing and a lot of transforming. Agile is one of the things that you've been doing, but you also have a new building. Right?
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into sort of the Agile story as well a little bit. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what that's been like?
Absolutely. Last October, we moved to our new headquarters. I think it was up on the screen earlier. And we did it for a couple of reasons. One, we had outgrown our old building, which is good. And so we really needed to provide something that our employees would want to work in, but it's also modern, kind of open space, open concept. And to me, it really, and I think to our CEO too, when he envisioned this, it really supported the notion of being innovative. And and if you go there now, if you know anything about Agile, there's a lot of sticky notes up everywhere. Everywhere. But it's just really nice. And plus, like I said, we're an insurance company, but we're also a technology company at the end of the day. And we're in a city where we have to compete with a lot of high-tech companies. So I hope what we've created there, and I think what Rich's vision was we want to be a great place to work for everyone, and it's really set up to really support innovation. And so we're really excited and so happy to be there. And of course, Kirby Lane being downstairs is a treat as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Pancakes are good.
Yes, they are. And there is a B.D. Riley's down the street.
Yes,
drink responsibly, but their Guinness is the best I've had. It's fantastic outside of Ireland. And so you're in a really cool area. And in fact, I was talking to one of the service providers on the recruiting side, and they were saying that your story has changed significantly in the last year. You are now an Agile shop, and you are in one of the coolest parts of town in the Miller area. So I think it is a big part of your transformation.
Absolutely.
And it is a beautiful space.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So when it came down to deciding about and thinking about wrangling and wrestling with the current state that you were in pre-Agile, right? How were you convinced that Agile was the answer, something you wanted?
Right. Well, I had been involved in a lot of technology projects, and we were under the traditional waterfall method.
Sure.
We were somewhat siloed. We did customer journey maps a couple of years ago, where we kind of put ourselves in the shoes of our customers and saw what it was like to interact with us both online and via paper, however. And what it revealed, which was very eye-opening for me, was that we were operating somewhat in silos on the operational side of the house.
Sure.
And that our customers could see that. So that was one kind of motivator. So we really need to think about an end-to-end service model, an end-to-end digital service model. So that was one thing we experienced. The other thing is we had put in some siloed initiatives along the way, a couple of things where we talked to our customers about what their needs are, but the business solution them. We handed the requirements to IT. They go off and build it for 12 to 18 months, doing exactly what we've asked them to do. So this is not knocking anyone. And then when we rolled it out, we were told a couple of times, or we just didn't see the uptake, or we were told, no, this is actually not what we want from our customers. And I think that kind of thing happens internally, and that's natural to happen when you're in that kind of waterfall method. So I had seen that happen too, and knew there had to be a better way. And then had also experienced what Agile was like through a project that we worked with an external vendor. So all of those things told me that there was a better way to do things. Getting that iterative along the way, getting feedback, try it, is it going to work or not? It just made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, you had an interesting introduction in that you didn't even just try it yourselves. You had a partner, I believe.
Yeah.
There was somebody you were working with. Can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of got started?
Yeah, so we had a very old claim system. It was written in COBOL and green screen, and we were worried that we would never find programmers to fix it. So with the support of our board, we were able to replace that system with a very modern, state-of-the-art claim system, and Guidewire was the software vendor. And they came in and introduced the Agile methodology. So it's really neat. We were able to, very quickly kind of configure the screens and then get in front of employees that were going to use the system and get their feedback. And at the end of the implementation, they had seen it along the way. The training was easier. The adoption and the buy-in was much better. We did so many things right in that project. And quite honestly, when we were done with it, I remember telling one of the VPs in IT, like, I don't want to go back to waterfall. I love Agile, and didn't get met with a lot of, yeah, let's do it. But it worked. I mean, eventually, I think I kept advocating for it because I really saw it as something beneficial.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we see a lot is people don't, when they get a taste of saying, oh, we get to do things differently and it benefits everybody in the process, it's really hard to unwind that and say, okay, we're going to wait 18 months to have a big reveal at the end and hope that it works.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And customers don't necessarily benefit. Value's not early and often. Right? It's surprise. Here you go.
Yeah.
You mentioned Rich earlier, and there's an interesting story that is a part of your transformation and becoming more agile. He did something where he had to give up his own personal space at the company. Can you tell us a little bit about what he did and how that worked out?
Absolutely, yeah. Rich was serious when he said he wants us to be more innovative and concerned about these potential entrants into the market.
Yeah.
So we basically simulated a startup within Texas Mutual. So he fired, quote unquote, 5 or 6 of our employees from their regular jobs. They moved into his office.
Rehired,
yes. Rehired, yes. These are all in quotes.
Yeah.
And basically challenged them to come up with an innovative product or service to benefit our customers that can be implemented within 12 months, within a year. So those are some of the things we were recognizing. We needed to be more nimble. We needed to go faster. We needed to put the customer first. So he gave them that challenge, and they were essentially, they had a budget, but they weren't constrained by the normal constraints you would have in a large company.
Sure.
And so the lessons learned out of that were really incredible. And I think that also really led to our adoption of Agile, because we did come up with products. We started implementing them in the Agile fashion, working with external partners again. And others in the company started seeing this change and this shift as well. So it was a really valuable lesson, and kind of, I think, propelled us to get to this point where we're going to make this transition.
And he literally got kicked out of his own office, right?
Yeah. Well, he kicked the CFO out of his office.
Oh, there you go.
He had to go upstairs. He moved into his office, but yeah, he gave up his office that entire time.
Yeah, to create the space, right?
The space and
cross-functional team.
Yeah. And it was clear to the rest of the organization that we were not to bother them, talk to them, ask them questions. We were to let them work. And then they revealed what their findings were at the end of the day. So a lot of valuable lessons for the organization from that exercise.
Yeah, and we find that there's a lot of testing and experimenting that folks want to do. They're not quite ready to go all in, right? Feels scary. A lot of executives know the transformations typically fail, right? And they're expensive. And at the same time, you guys did make the decision. We are going to go all in.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? How did you go from, we have the small incubated simulated startup that did stimulate a lot of interesting conversations.
Yeah.
So how did you guys decide, okay, this is something we're going to do?
Yeah, it was a couple of things. This is actually my favorite part of the story. I don't know, do you play buzzword bingo back home? This is where synergy, we had a convergent and synergy happening. But really it was the effects of that innovation work and that startup simulation, coupled with, I'd still been kind of pushing for it. I desired it. I know that I'd been advocating for it, and others had too. And really a grassroots kind of groundswell within the IT department. I think we have great talented folks, and they were hearing this desire that we want to go quicker, we want to keep up with what's happening. They were hearing all of this. And they're like, well, they started doing their own research. I think some of them reached out to you guys.
That's right, they did.
And really advocated at that level as well. So it was all of these things coming together, multiple layers of the organization that really made it where, okay, we're ready to do this thing. And that's when we started talking about changing, getting rid of the silos and the way we were approaching IT projects. We got rid of these long lists of projects that were department focused to more strategic programs and kind of cross-functional, really thinking about the customer. And then we set about to how are we going to implement Agile, and that's when we brought you guys in to help us transform the teams.
Yeah, and it was interesting when we first engaged. It was around training, right? And then it was just 3 teams. Yeah. And then before we kicked off, we're like, no, we probably need to go a bit bigger. Like there was you guys felt like there was momentum. Yeah. Right. If we had 6 teams, that would really send a signal that we are doing this right. But at the same time, we're not going to go all in. So there is a way to kind of sequence in. And for those 6 teams, what was going on from that perspective, do you think? How did that go?
With any change, there's going to be the forming, storming, norming.
Yeah.
Another buzzword bingo term for business function. So that, of course, we went through all that. But I feel like the approach that we took really, we expected that. That wasn't at all surprising. And along the way, we did exactly what you're supposed to do. We experimented, we learned, and then we adjusted. And so we have a few teams that have been operating this way for a year now, and they're rolling and going. And I will say, I see the engagement, just what they're producing. Everything's working really well. But it's not to say it wasn't painful, because I know it was. All change is hard.
Right.
But with the coaching we got from you guys, having the buy-in from the organization, we've been able to overcome what little pain there has been on a relative basis.
Yeah, there's always kinks to iron out, right?
Yes, yeah.
And you guys had them, right? The path to agility, we have the dip as you kind of, okay, we're doing this, right? And things get revealed that otherwise had been hidden. They can be, kinks in communication or what have you. Are there any things that you remember, even just a year ago saying, oh, wow, that was something we had to work through?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, one of the things that I love about agility and what I've learned about it is the transparency that comes with it. So if essentially you can't hide,
no,
right?
Can't.
You've got cross-functional, self-directed teams that, you have to be able to feed the programmers, you have to be able to go, you have to be able to implement. And so I think that that level of transparency was probably painful for some people. I think some people were probably dealing with things, suffering in silence, maybe. I know one example, how long it takes for us to give people access to certain files. I heard one example, it took 4 weeks. Like, we can't do that. If we're going to go, and we have a new programmer, and we need to be able to get them set up much more in a timely manner. And that's now we know about it, we can fix it.
Right.
So that's what I love about it. Now we know about the bottlenecks, and we can fix them. And and the people that maybe were feeling like a bottleneck before don't have to suffer in silence. And the people that felt like they were able to really work collaboratively and kind of overcome those things to put the most efficient and effective processes in place. But I won't lie, when those were revealed, it was, oh my God, it felt like this is insurmountable sometimes, or this is going to be really hard, or we're going to get beat up for something. And which I found really interesting, the number of times I heard, I'm worried we're going to get beat up about something. We're not a company that beats anyone up, but I think we have high standards, and we have a great team of people that want to please and do a good job. And so having to say, we've got this thing that's holding us back, I think that can be difficult. But I feel like, if you'd asked me this question 6 months ago, we weren't as far on the other side of it. But where I'm sitting now, I think everyone is seeing the value of going through that process of sort of airing what might be someone's dirty laundry or not, but airing things that needed to be addressed. You can see them, you can address them, and you can move forward. So.
Yeah, your culture is unique in that there is a baseline of trust, and there is a sense of wanting to do right by one another.
Yes.
And sometimes that means I don't want to bring something up.
Yes,
right?
That has been a huge, I think, reveal for us too, is we have a great culture, and we are proud of our culture.
Oh, sure.
We live it and breathe it. Integrity, safety, service, and mutual respect. Mutual respect is one of those, one of our values. And it's great, but if you err on the side of being too nice and too respectful, then you potentially sacrifice candor you need. So again, in this world of agile, managing your projects that way, you need to be able to make decisions quickly. You need to be able to come to an agreement or consensus, and that means you might have to disagree with someone.
Right.
So we are learning how to do that.
Yes.
It's really interesting. And I would say also that shift from sort of the top down, the business tells IT what to do. One of the things when I recognized how important this collaboration was going to be to making this work, when I first became COO, I addressed the whole IT team. And I asked someone in the audience, so who's your customer? And they're like, well, you are, and claims is our customer. And I'm like, no more. From now on, I want all of you to understand that you're partnering with the business, and your collective customers are our policyholders, their workers we're trying to keep safe, the workers that are hurt, we're trying to get back to work, our agent partners and our medical provider partners. Those are all of your customers, and we're all going to work together to solve their problems. So that, just to give a different, that was a change in how we had operated for 25 years.
Sure.
But we are getting better about having those conversations where we may have a disagreement. Before, maybe it was the most senior person in the room said something people didn't agree with.
Right.
So there would be a hallway conversation, or maybe I'm going to escalate this. And then 2 weeks later, we get the issue resolved. Now I'm seeing people having that conversation in the moment in the room. It's not perfect yet, but we're definitely getting a lot better at it. And that was something that I don't know that we would have gotten to without going through this transformation. I didn't realize we needed to. It was one of the many things that was revealed. It's still respectful. We are not losing the core of who we are. It's just, we got to get things done. We need to get them done in a timely manner. And that means we have to have these real conversations and making decisions in a timely manner.
Yeah, your teams are demonstrating a lot of courage. And one of the ways, we didn't talk about this before, but the wall for the IT leadership, where anybody can come put a sticky on, and it can be as blunt as it needs to be, right? We don't feel like X, Y, or Z is happening, right? Or we need this thing and we don't know why it's taking so long.
Yeah.
And I think that cultural change, I wouldn't even call it change, really. I think it's more of an it's an accentuation of what you guys already have, but it's putting really clear and direct, like, we need this. Yeah. Now we're just sort of accelerating the outcomes.
It's accelerating the outcomes for sure. I definitely sense that. And what I'm seeing, like when I see the empowered teams present, like, here's what we're going to go live with, and here's how we approached it, and here's just seeing them, they can make so many better decisions about how to serve our customers than anyone else can. So everything I'm seeing is accelerating the organization and really moving us forward. So it's all an exciting change. Not saying it hasn't been, and maybe for others, maybe more than me, there's been anxiety, but I think it's been great.
Yeah, there's always that concern, right? Yeah. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't want to step out of line. And agility allows it to be about outcomes. Yes. Right? Like, we're trying to achieve this goal. Yeah. Are there specific things that we haven't already covered? And you mentioned a few things like breaking down silos, right? But are there outcomes and things that you would like to see achieved as a result of this?
Well, everything we're doing is, at the end of the day, for our customers, to make sure that we're providing value for them. Yeah. And I'm seeing that happen. Yeah. Something that's going to be key, because now and the other thing obviously is we have Agile implemented. So we have all of our teams now, as of the first of the year, are all trained, and we learned the lessons from the first few teams that went live, the first 6 teams. Now all the rest, I can't remember how many we have. 17 teams. Yes, we have 17 teams, which is a lot, right? Yeah. So how do we know that the work that these 17 teams are doing collectively, or individually and collectively, is really leading to bringing our strategic vision and roadmaps to life? And that's sort of, I would say, where I personally am in the journey, is making sure and understanding that our strategies clear? Right. Does it translate? And a week ago, I saw you last week, and I would have told you that was my next thing that I'm expecting to be able to see, and I haven't yet, since we've started operating this way. And the next day I get back and I'm in a meeting, and the program teams present how they're going to tell that story and bridge it. And the story they told in that brief, just sort of, here's how we want to approach it, looked really good. So I'm excited. I'm seeing that part happen as well.
Right. So being able to have the same level of transparency from the vision and strategy all the way down to somebody's writing some code.
Exactly.
Right. Testing some code, putting it into a test environment, all of that stuff starts to harmonize.
Yeah.
And
we're not there yet, but we're getting there. But before,
good point.
We would have been just telling someone what to do, maybe not even why, and they were doing what we asked, you know. So this is just a much different way and very much a two-way conversation. So I'm starting to see that develop as well.
And it's really great when your strategy is perfect. There's no flaws in the vision, right? All of the direction is crystal clear, right?
No, but I mean, I'm definitely open. I want to test that. I want to make sure what do we need to do to make our vision resonate and clear, and to make sure that and perhaps what will be revealed from the product teams is we're off base on something or we're missing something, and I'm looking forward to that. It's really all of us. I think our strategy and our vision is going to get stronger as a result of all of us really working in this very transparent, collective fashion to meet our goals.
Yeah, and I would say that's something for folks who are watching. It is an exceptional place when the COO says, and you said this last week, right? And say, well, what if the vision needed to be tested, right? What if somebody wanted to ask a hard question about the vision, and to you directly? Right? Like they're trying to implement this thing for the shared customer, but it seems off.
Right.
Would you be open to them?
Absolutely. I think I said, bring it on.
Exactly.
No, absolutely. Yeah. You have to have that.
Right.
I'm a firm believer, especially what I've learned the last couple of years, that the people closest to our customers every day know way better how to solve their problems and meet their needs than I do.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of talented people at this company that we're unleashing. And I love it.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see. And I think that as I work with different folks as well, there is an absolute receptivity to, okay, I know that I'm not loving the hard feedback, right? Like it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But they love the feedback, right? In the moment it hurts. And at the same time, I've seen a receptiveness and a willingness to receive. Absolutely. And I think if there's any one thing that can just absolutely squash all the good stuff you're talking about is when the CEO comes in and says, nope, we're going to do it my way. And they become directive, right? And they're not partners in the process.
Right.
So kudos to you and the team all the way down, up and down the stack, trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So you've sort of highlighted some good things and things you're excited about. Is there anything else that comes to mind that, kind of like, oh, this is really good. I'm really excited about some of these outcomes I'm seeing.
Gosh, there's so many things. I mentioned the transparency,
decision-making,
decision-making, which we're still working on, but it's key. Leadership has changed. You just mentioned the CEO coming in and could potentially, squash all of the progress. But our CEO, I love Rich. He's great. He's 100% bought in, and he's even joined one of our teams.
Oh yeah. Talk about that. That's fun.
So we have a team. They were called something else before, but now they're called the Culture Crew. And they're really there, and it's a combination of business and IT folks, and they're there to take all the lessons learned as we've gone through this transformation and provide the support we need, whether it's how are we going to document this, where are we going to, how are we going to tell this story, what do we need to change, and kind of bring up those communication issues. And so the Culture Crew, they're great guys, great bunch of girls and guys, and Rich has actually joined the Culture Crew. So I'm sure they were freaked out the first time. It's like, hey, I'm going to join, but that's great, and that's really sending a signal to everyone in the organization that leadership is behind this transformation, and so it's a lot of fun.
Now the story, as I heard it, was he came in and he said, "Look, I am part of the team."
Yes.
Right. He made it very clear. Look, sure, I play a role, right, but for this team, I am a member.
Yep.
Right, and again, just that reinforcing that we're all in this together, and he gets to see a little bit of the sausage making.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And it's not always pretty, and it's not always easy, and it doesn't always need to be fixed by the CEO or somebody else, right?
Exactly.
They can actually go fix it, and he can help, but it doesn't have to be the one.
I can say I'm the person, I always like to solve problems too. So I do have to sit on my hands sometimes when I'm seeing the sausage being made. Provide enough direction maybe or to get it off center. But the teams are going to come up with way better answers than I can. So it's been a big shift for me personally to learn how to let go.
Oh yeah, and I'm throwing you a curveball.
Okay, that's fine.
So one of the things I love and I share with so many clients is when I was walking by the cubes, and I saw one of the teams on their own initiative put up a metric.
Yeah.
Did we finish all of the stories that we committed to in the last sprint? And that was it. That was the metric. And then it had a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And the first time I walked by,
They had a thumbs down.
get a thumbs down. So what's that about, right?
Yeah, I mean that shows that the transformation is working, because I don't know that we have such high standards. We
Yep.
still do. That's
sure.
not changing. But it also wasn't normal for us to have any kind of failures or not reaching our goals. We're not used to operating that way. We are a high achieving company, but the reality is that's not reality on a day-to-day basis. So the fact that team was willing to show the world, anyone could walk by that, hey, we didn't make it, but the other side of that, but we're learning and we're adjusting so that we can in the future.
Right.
So that's what we're supporting with the try, learn. I just say do, learn, adjust. It's my simplistic way to talk about Agile. I presented something the other day where we're coming up with more on the innovation side. We could put our resources towards a million different things that are happening in the insurtech space. So we've started to try to put a framework together to really evaluate whether or not we should focus on something to help us narrow our scope a little bit. And so I went to our innovation council, and the team had put this together and they presented it, and it wasn't perfect. We really threw it together in a short period of time because we wanted to make a decision on investing in something. And it was tough. I mean, it was people were throwing, stones at where there were problems. But at the end of the day, I was like, look, we could have taken 3 months. We could have taken 6 months perfecting the methodology. Or we did like we did. We tried. We put it out there. We've got the feedback now. I know how to make it better. And we're going to go back and try again. And we were able to get enough information to make a good decision. That to me is, before we would have probably perfected.
Right.
And that's the habit we're trying to break to get to ultimately what is probably a better answer than what we think is the perfect answer.
Yes, that is a big one.
Yes.
Right? We're going to polish this thing up, and we're going to spend a bunch of time doing research and testing it and modeling it. And then we're going to put a lot of time into putting it into a PowerPoint.
Yes.
Right. And so sometimes you're headed down the wrong path at the outset and you don't find out for 6 months.
Right.
And that's waste.
Yeah.
Right. And it's time and energy and enthusiasm.
Right.
So that's a significant change.
Yes, it is. It is. But I think it's the right change. It's really in line with the vision that Rich laid out. At the beginning, it's funny. I remember when he first got there, he said, if you think I'm off base or wrong about something, you need to raise your hand and tell me. And he's been saying that consistently.
Right.
And I think we're just now getting to the point where I was never afraid to do it. I hope he's not watching.
I'm sure he is.
but no, I think we're getting to the point where we're able to really see how valuable having those real conversations, disagreements where you need to, challenging to get to the better answer.
Yeah, it's not the exception.
Right.
It's not the exceptional person who's saying, hey, I want to ask some questions. Yeah. And you still do it very professionally and very respectfully, but no less intently, right? And I think that you need to have the structure in place, and people need to test and prove this is really okay. Yeah. It's all right for me to be able to bring up something that matters to me, right? Like I can't get to a test environment. Right. How long do I have to wait in queue? Or can I just raise my hand and say, my team is going to fail their sprint unless I can start doing some testing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that goes all the way up. And the culture is there because you guys have that sense, but now you're actually putting something behind it, right?
Yes.
Now people can actually take action.
Yeah, I'll give you another example.
Sure, please.
We were just in a project review. We're implementing a new CRM system the other day. And this notion that comes up that's been revealed is tech debt, where, maybe in the past we would have taken shortcuts and projects. Everyone does it. I know it's normal, but we prioritize just as high as providing customer value. Let's deal with the tech debt we've incurred and let's not incur more. And that was a hard conversation to have in between at the beginning no one wanted to admit it, but now it's something we talk about openly. And so I was in this presentation for the new system. They went through all the new features we're going to implement. It looks great. And they were like, okay, now we need to talk about, here's 2 things. We incurred tech debt in these 2 areas, and this is why we did it. And now it's on the backlog and we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
That kind of transparency, and it's going to get fixed now.
Sure.
Is exactly the kind of thing you want. And it was a good thing.
Yeah.
I clapped, I think, when they put that up there just to signal, yes, that's,
Wow.
we need to have those conversations and operate this way. So there's been just a lot of really great outcomes in my mind.
Yeah, I think so too. Taking just a brief pause, I see that there are a number of questions coming in. We've got about 15 minutes left. Do you think we'll have enough questions that we should kick it back? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. A lot of people are asking the same question. So
really?
Do you want to go ahead and address it?
Jeanette, what do you want to do?
It's your webinar.
All right.
I'm here for you.
Let's go ahead. I think since people have given us their time, it'd be nice to pivot. And we can always, I'll keep these questions and we can go to them.
Okay.
JT, what's the sort of the theme?
The biggest question following what you've been talking about with your CEO and everything like that is, how do you address a leader that is either unwilling to embrace Agile, is very skeptical, or just someone that doesn't want to let go of that old command and control process?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. I guess I can say I feel very fortunate that we're not having to deal with that. But when I first started talking about Agile, right after I saw what we could do with the Guidewire project, I was met with some resistance. I was in a different position, but someone that was a peer to me was somewhat resistant to the concept and idea. And so the way I approached it is, it can be a dog on the bone. It's more coming at it from multiple angles of the why, the context, the examples. We formed sort of absent Rich, actually, in this case, when we started talking about how we're going to get things done differently in the organization as a result of some of our innovation and our simulated startup, part of what I did was I pulled that same group together, including some of the folks that had been, not just open to changing right away, but there was some openness, and said, look, Rich has been asking for us to do different for a number of years. Let's prove to him once and for all that we can do this. Let's come up with the right game plan. I even didn't know it then, but I was implementing pieces of Agile where I said, okay, we have to have real conversations. We can't walk out of this room and not air our disagreements, and had kind of started that. And so I think just, it was sort of a continue to convince, don't give up. Like I said, if I had, in hindsight, this to do over again, I probably would have started pushing for this a lot earlier had I realized all the benefits we were going to get. Mm-hmm. So don't give up.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about your story, right, Texas Mutual story, is that you have a lot of stakeholders. Mm-hmm. And so the command and control mindset and approach can work really well when there's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
Right. And trying to draw out projects or deliverables so that you can think through all of the potential dilemmas, right, and all
Absolutely.
of the problems.
Yeah.
And I think fear, right, or maybe even a deep sense of ownership, but very strong, soft things, not necessarily, technically how you do it, requires having a little bit of empathy for the people that are actually in a command and control. And they won't always be very empathy worthy, right? They'll be difficult to reach because they represent a kind of approach that they have gotten to the levels that they're at because they've been able to be effective, right?
Right, exactly.
So I think part of it is needing to understand that these are people. They may have rough edges. They may be difficult, but they're in their own journey too, right? And sometimes they need to be heard. Yeah. Because what I'll see sometimes is that you do get the grassroots, but it's like pitchforks and torches. We need this now, and banging on the door, and the person's like, if that happens, it feels like it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So how do we help them, right? And how do we kind of tone it down a little bit? Because this is my own personal thing, is that Agile is amazing, right? The things it can provide you is a legion of good things, but it can also come off as a little bit arrogant, right? Yeah. And it can come off like, you got to do it exactly this way, and it almost becomes a wedge that divides people instead of a way to bring them together. So for folks who are struggling with that, there are things that we could talk to you about, and there are some things that might be helpful in terms of talking to folks like a Jeanette, right? Now, I'm not going to sign Jeanette up for everybody, but we have a number of clients that would be more than happy to talk to you and to talk to people who are wrestling with it, because the fact is the world is changing, right? And that command and control structure typically won't win out against, an empowered team of 17 or really 20 engaged, energetic, thoughtful, hardworking. I mean, that's David Marquet calls that a tidal wave, right? So, but we don't have to do it without empathy and a concern for people who probably are doing what they're doing generally out of goodness. Let's assume good intent. Right? Let's assume they're trying to do their best. So how do we ease into it? Because you guys didn't go 17 from a cold start, right?
I would say it is contagious once you see it. When you talk about it, in the conceptual and the theoretical, it can seem a little arrogant. I totally agree. And I know people at the company that got sick of hearing the word agile. But once we started actually doing it and it became tangible and people started seeing the benefits, it became contagious and it spread. So starting small might be a way to get there. If you can convince someone to take that risk and let them know what's in it for them at the end of the day is a powerful team helping drive business value.
Results and outcomes.
Results,
So that's, definitely self-serving from Agile Velocity's point of view. We're sort of changing the game a bit for ourselves because we're talking about business outcomes. You can look at the path to agility and there's no Agile jargon on there, right? It is all about business outcomes. And we can look at you on innovation. Let's talk about what we know innovation requires. Do you have those things? No? Okay, well, here's how we would solve them, and Agile is the answer, right? So if people want to be responsive to their market, or they want to be a market leader, or they want an engaged workforce, or they want client success, right? They want their customers to be satisfied. How do they do that? And I think when you start at the outcomes, it's like, okay, now let's work our way back versus it's this method versus that method, or your style versus my style. So let's start with the common ground first. So there's a lot of things we can do, and we love doing this. So obviously reach out and we'd be happy to help.
I can vouch for them.
Thank you. Any other questions pop out?
Yeah, so we have two more that are pretty similar. So understanding that Agile is more of an organizational thing, and we've talked about leaders. We have a couple questions more around the team. So can you talk a little bit more about how your teams are structured, like the disciplines that they follow? Any kind of...
Yeah, so we have, I guess, self-contained teams where we have programmers, I'm not super technical, so forgive me, people, but we have the coders, right?
It's all good.
Coders, we have QA, we have product owners, Scrum Masters, thank you, all on the team, in those self-directed teams, in those 17 teams. And then they're structured to support the different parts of the business. So we have sort of a customer experience program and then an internal core systems program. And within those are the different product teams and their value streams focused basically on providing that external customer value per stakeholder and internal. Then we have shared services, so security, infrastructure, DevOps kind of stuff. Thank you. Again, not technical. But they are, so they're supporting all of the teams. And that's where we are right now in our transformation. The teams are in place and going. Self-directed, clarity of vision, we hope, or feels like it. They have business partners too, business process owners that work very closely with them to make sure that we're focused, that the strategy translation is there, and that we're meeting the needs of the business and the external customers. And then those shared services and DevOps is really where we're focused now on how can we make that most efficient. We're not quite there yet, but we're on a path where it's coming to light, becoming revealed.
Yeah, and I'll take that just a step further. I think the teams we're trying to set them up as cross-functional as possible.
Yes.
so that they can actually take an idea and put it all the way ideally into production here soon. And your infrastructure and operations teams, boy, they've had to accommodate all of these, a lot.
When I say suffer in silence, I think they probably were, because they were having to react to a lot of different activity that's coming at them, and that could continue in a more chaotic way. But there's a strong partnership now and a desire to make it a very efficient, effective process for everybody.
Yeah, and they I think the entire the courage and dedication, the entire organization deserves a shout out.
Oh, yeah.
But boy, we did talk about some of the other things that you guys did last year, and they all went through the infrastructure and operation. Those guys.
While we were co-locating our data center and moving our building and transferring to Agile, they had a big year, and
Office
I'm really
365.
Office 365. Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah. So our infrastructure operations teams, they did an incredible job last year. I hope they have some semblance of work-life balance again.
And that's actually one of the outcomes, right, that we've talked about, is that we don't espouse having to work 80 hours a week, right, trying to deliver 160 hours or work 60. We want people to have the best opportunity to come in fresh, sharp, and if one group is suffering, then the entire organization needs to know that they're suffering.
And help.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah. And
help.
What do you mean by that? Could you talk a little bit about that? What do you mean by that?
Well, if we need to slow down on something to give them time to speed up, if we need to apply resources, if we need to say, do we really need to do this right now? I think I keep saying to people, I don't know where you're going, but
no,
I keep
going.
saying to
great.
people that we're okay in today's marketplace while we're trying to get ready for tomorrow. This is the time to invest in ourselves.
Right.
And I definitely don't want anyone killing themselves to get the job done. So that work-life balance is critical.
No, it's just really rare to have somebody say, hey, we are going to help us, right? It's not them. Yeah. It's not that group over there. Right. It's like we're a work family, right? And we want to be healthy, right? And if one person's suffering, then we should all be suffering, because there's got to be capacity elsewhere that can help.
Exactly.
Great. That's exactly where I was going.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah, thanks.
Good. Yeah.
Any other ones? Okay. So what I'd like to do is to ask maybe more of a kind of a question about you.
Okay.
And an advice sort of reflection question.
Mm-hmm.
How is the Texas Mutual transformation changed you?
Okay.
How's it affected you or changed you?
There's a couple of things there. I guess knowing what I know now, I kind of wish I'd pushed harder for this sooner.
You were right.
Yes, I was right. And anyone that knows me, I'm usually right. So that was a joke. No, but really, I sometimes think about that I probably would have pushed for this sooner, or pushed harder maybe. But hindsight's 20/20, and maybe we weren't ready, right? And it's happened at the right time, because it is going really well. Some of the things that have really just been eye-opening is that, I think I mentioned it earlier, the transparency across the board. Me thinking, oh, well, I used to think we weren't siloed until I discovered we were. And then I used to think that, oh, we are super transparent here. But then when you talk to the teams that are actually executing on your vision or your work or your thoughts, and like, no, you guys have a lot of conversations in rooms, and we don't know why. So
right.
So that's sort of up I need to do a lot better job communicating, making sure the vision's clear, pushing messages down, pulling messages up, being there, being in the middle of it, all of that. So that's been really, and I like to roll my sleeves up anyway, so that's a lot of fun. Having the time to do it's different, which is why you still need to have the clear message there. It feels really natural to me. I like the collaboration. I like the empowerment. I can say that I've sort of, when Rich first came to the company and it became clear, he was like, you're empowered. You know how to run your division. That's when I went, oh my God, that's a different level of accountability than I'd ever had before.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. But it is. It's like, when you're just told what to do, it's different. And
that's right.
what I guess I have empathy for everyone of the teams that they're going through this transformation is, hey, we trust you, we're empowering you. And I know what they're feeling. They're feeling that, oh my God. But I hope what they're also feeling is we trust you, and I say it all the time. I probably say it once a week. There's nothing anyone can do right now in any of these projects to sink the company. We're okay today. This is the perfect time to do this. And once you get a taste of what it's like to have those wins and to not get beat up, or what I'm really hoping is everyone has the same high level of career satisfaction that I know I do every day when I come in there.
Yeah,
it's fun. So
yeah, that's a great place to end. And I think work, the places where we spend so much of our time, it's a really interesting environment where people bring their own stuff, right? And it's the one place where gender and race and all are down here because we're focusing on doing great work together to satisfying our clients, right? Our customers, we want them to be happy. So we're going to pull together. And what you guys have done is create an environment to pull together. And it can be difficult and scary, right? Like, oh my gosh, you're asking me to make a decision?
Yeah.
What if it's the wrong decision?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to beat me up about that?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
We're going to adjust.
That's right, because we're not spending more than 2 weeks. Right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jeanette. This
Absolutely.
has been a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thank you and Agile Velocity for all your support. I will say, not that I'm plugging them, but this methodology, your approach, or the coaching method, I think is added an incredible amount of value to the whole process. So we couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.